it was October of '08. So if you match their growth against the growth of Amazon and everything else, it just smoked everybody. And it's because this new channel developed. There was a new channel, or there's an existing channel of email that all of a sudden had a very different efficacy rate because consumers massively went on and adopted that they're willing to purchase, and so allowed a new business model to be created. So on this awareness thing, I would just encourage all of you, when you're looking at businesses, figure out what they're doing about customer acquisition for what you're doing. Think about, are there different channels that are developing and that are just new, and do a lot of experimentation. If it works, just run with it. If I were an entrepreneur today, I would be looking at the iPad. I'd be looking at the Kindle as different forms of monetization. So when you read the New York Times of this romance writer clearing $2 million of expected gross revenue through Amazon on Kindle, that's different. And so I'll spend time myself looking for being a trend spotter for, on this awareness side, are there new channels? And then, by the way, usually most companies I'm aware of will have multiple channels for customer acquisition. So for your businesses, don't be afraid that there isn't only a single channel that's sufficient for you. You have to experiment with all of them. But in any case, I think for awareness, these are the two buckets that I really spend a lot of time on. And this is really the cost driver here. And this is fundamentally important. So when you're designing your engagement path for acquisition, you have to, they're all important, but you're trying to figure out how do you get scale at manageable costs. Moving on to the next line on acquisition. Acquisition is tricky. I like to say that what acquisition is for a consumer internet site is acquisition takes place when you navigate a consumer to a place of deep, conscious dissatisfaction. And then you provide an alternative that causes them to take a choice. So I like to say consumer online consumer services are really skilled at managing the engagement path to increase dissatisfaction until it boils over and they pull the trigger. I just put up this general question that for a lot of startups, they'll say, well, how do we make sure that there is a call to action to force someone to pull the trigger to make a purchase? There are a lot of traditional techniques. I have a picture of Blue Now here. Valentine's Day with the cycling cue, or it's both a cycle and a cue. It's an annual type of rhythm. You could have notifications around Mother's Day and things. But in general, it's tricky. It actually is tricky, and it's just and so where some entrepreneurs get tied up is that they want to find the perfect trigger that has 100% conversion. That I found the right customer, and I want to sell baby clothes to mothers, and I found the mother, and I want to, and this is the thing that will get them every time. I'll show them a photo of a cute girl who's 6 months older than the baby that they have, and I've done that behavioral thing, and they're going to buy it. Well, for consumerism, you actually don't know. It's a statistical thing, and so it's just a math equation. You say, well, this is a better conversion rate than others. Looking at your work, I think that you are all very skilled at making that judgment, but I would just keep encouraging you to maintain that prudence. And then this is the part I want to dig into on acquisition. So for acquisition on profit, there's this, I think a lot of entrepreneurs get confused, but in this box, you really want to make sure that the gross margin dollars you get from a completed transaction, your gross margin dollars is your revenue minus all the costs associated with that. You're interested in how much more that amount, gross margin dollars, exceeds your cost of customer acquisition. And based upon your industry, that's the benchmarking you want to do. So it's called gross margin dollars minus cost of customer acquisition. This GMS minus CAC. And every industry has GMS over CAC minus CAC. And if you have a much better GMS over CAC, you could do a lot of interesting things with respect to awareness to drive your competitors to go under ultimately. And so there's a lot of tuning, and I think this gross margin dollars minus CAC is really enabled by the behavioral design of the solution and your ability to develop brand around it. Yeah.
So you're saying that different industries have different benchmarks for the portion of the margin that is going towards acquisition costs?
That's correct.
So is there like, can you throw out, I mean, is it like 50% on the internet, but like 10% in groceries? Is it something like this, or just?
Yeah, so groceries, the you know, Anthony, I'd love to get so advertising with, and advertising and publishers is one extreme, and then the other extreme. So like on a case of Blue Nile, where the average engagement ring is $5,000, it's probably $7,000. Now I'm no longer on the board, but it's about $7,000, 20% gross margin. So on a diamond engagement ring purchase, that purchaser drives $1,400 of gross profit, gross margin dollars to Blue Nile. So they could use a portion of that to acquire the customer and have a profitable business, even before I talk about the retention marketing to the consumer, because retention marketing for almost all businesses is cheaper than initial acquisition. So back in 1998, 99, it might have been $500 to acquire one customer to spend $5,000. And so if you did that for an entertainment site, $500, you'd be out of business. So
yeah, so I think on the margin for I would say media type of businesses, like when I ran the entertainment division at CBS, what we tried to get after was the lifetime value of the users. So when a user came in that first month or the first time, how many more times were they going to actually be an engaged user on our site? And I think the average that we kind of came down to was about 9. And so if you could kind of figure that out in terms of lifetime value of that user, then you would do a calculation on how much that user was worth in terms of what we call the revenue per visit. And typically it was on a per stream basis because it would watch videos. And so depending on how many videos they had and how many ads we served, we went back and figured out what the margins were. I think that the typical cost that we saw in our industry initially started off around 20 cents per viewer, and then over time went down actually to about 3 cents, 2 cents per user. And so we had two dynamics working in a business like that, which is one, we monetized the videos much better as we had more users because we sold more ads, so our revenue per user went way up, and then our per cost of customer or user acquisition went way down, and so you saw the margins just expand dramatically, and that's what Gus was talking about in terms of these scale businesses that can work. The other channel I would say that, at least that we saw, that I don't think businesses take advantage of it, and it's not just internet businesses, but businesses in general, is YouTube. It's a free marketing platform in a lot of respects that I know when I was an entrepreneur, in the startup that I ran before it was acquired by CBS, I leveraged like heck. And it's, you know, everyone thinks about Facebook, but everyone forgets that YouTube's actually